We did hundreds every Thursday, and it was a little different for each of us, but I think I started out at 24 100s, and they were on 130, I think. And for me, they were all best average, 24 100s best average. Some other people did hundreds, some people did 50s, and then each week we would drop, I think 6. So I think we did 18 the next week, 12 the next week, 6 the next week. And the goal was to have a faster average each week. So that was a fun set. Good to just see the progression. And again, just another, it wasn't straight up racing or suited up or anything like that, but just something each week to look forward to as a little marker to see where we're at.
Did you hold a best average each time?
I think I did. Sometimes it was just by a tenth or two, but I took it.
And I think, there's some big trials still to go, obviously Americans and Australian trials, to name 2 that are still to go, that are obviously have great relays in the 4x2. I think it's really exciting, especially with how we finished in 2019, with how our standing times have added up. But that's all of our best swims so far put together. In a relay, if you can all swim well, then you're laughing. Sometimes that's not always the case. But yeah, I think similar with the 4x1. Really, it's a pretty young team. Jimmy's the oldest, and he's really not that old. So I think that's pretty good as well. Jimmy, myself, we're both on that relay 5 years ago now. So to have that experience, but then also some youth as well, it's quite a nice balance.
Caleb is a great friend of mine, so to have him in the marshalling room was fantastic. He's a person that familiar face that you have there, and everyone else was new this time around, so I was able to kind of have a bit of a chat to him, which was cool before the race, and I think I stayed quite relaxed, and I executed everything possibly to the best of my ability in the race and where I was. Like I had a really good start for me. Obviously, you look at the reaction times again, like exactly what happened at Worlds. My reaction time was 0.68, Caleb's was 0.62. He wins by 0.06 of a second, and there you go. It's all in the reaction time off the block. And you can look at that as something I look at regularly, and I have since World Champs, because it happened exactly at World Champs. His reaction time was 0.09 or whatever it was faster than mine, and he beat me by that amount of time. So
I'm more valuable to the team in that sense than putting me on the 2 free relay and us getting bronze. The Great Britain was going to win that relay. I don't know if that sounds sorry or makes me sound like I'm not believing, I don't believe in this team. The guys that they had on that relay were so impressive. You had 2 guys going, Duncan and Tom Dean going 144. That's half the relay right there. Jimmy, I think, split a 145 low. Like, I'm fine with admitting there was a better team than us. Now, I'm not saying that's why I didn't do the relay, but I was more valuable to the team later on in the meet. So that's and it sucked. It sucked. I told Troy, I said, I don't want to make a decision that I'm going to regret the rest of my life. And he goes, did you ever swim the 2 free in college? I said no, and I regret that for the rest of my life.
I've been teasing Caleb to race me in the 25 throughout the whole training trip, and he hasn't done it yet. So I think he's a little scared. I hope he hears this.
Dude, we've seen your closing speed. I mean, he's got the start, but we know you have the finish. So I think it's anyone's race.
I might need a couple second head start,
I was talking with my boss Mel yesterday, and we're talking about this podcast, and he was like, "I wonder what Bobby's best 50 free time is," because he came home in 25.7 on that mile, like that. That's serious speed. So I looked it up. Do you know what your best 50 free time is?
It's 25 something, I think.
It's 25.4.
Yeah.
Do you think you could go?
That was kind of recent too. That was when I was like 18 or 17.
it's going to be pretty hard for me to hurt worse than I did at trials. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get to that pain level of the last 15 meters I had at Olympic trials ever again, which is kind of nice to think about, but also like gives me a new perspective. And so like, but I got back to trials got back from trials back to Austin. And once I kind of got back in the groove of training, I just started doing a lot of different stuff that I hadn't really done throughout the season, just because, I mean, now we're kind of in the point where it's kind of just work on your weaknesses, see what you can dig up in a time that doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
And I started doing these, I've been going, the distance guys at Texas would get mad at me for calling this the distance group because it hasn't really been distance group lately, but I've been doing like best average 100s with them. Like doing one day I did like 10 ones best average in a suit on 110, see what I can hold. And then another day without a suit, I was 6 ones on 130, see what I can hold. And
it's so important to just like keep it simple and to not build it up to something bigger than it needs to be, because that's when it becomes detrimental. And I think that's something that I've like really had to learn. So to answer your question, I obviously had more expectations for myself coming into this Olympics than I did back in 2016. Obviously, like internal pressures of just like wanting to perform and wanting to do well for myself. Also, there's always inevitably kind of external pressures that you learn to deal with. And I feel like I've learned to deal with that over the last couple of years. So I've been fortunate in that sense that I've had some time to learn to deal with that. But also trying to think back on 2016 and be like, just keep it simple, like just a swim meet, you're just swimming. So
I'm still really young. I'm not even 3/4 of the way through high school. So I think I'm in a good position. Before, I really didn't think of myself as an Olympic contender. I was in the top 16, so I guess it's a possibility, but it really wasn't probable. It still isn't probable, nothing probable. But been really neat to all of a sudden be in that mix. And I think that it's important for me to remember, though, that I am young, and that even if I don't make the Olympic team, or even if I don't swim my best performance at trials, I think that I still have so far to go. At the next Olympics in 3 years, I'll be training in Texas. Yeah, I have a lot to learn about my stroke still, and I think a lot of people would think that I was a disadvantage going into trials, competing against a field of women that are so experienced. But I think a lot of them would give a lot to be in the position that I'm in, because I still do have so far to develop and so much to learn.